Hey guys, what's up? I kind of felt like I wanted to return to my roots and do some invasion commentaries. I feel like in the remaster, maybe there isn't quite as much overall strategy outside of the combat. So I have a little bit less to say in terms of strategy. The other issue is I'm not nearly as accomplished a player in Dark Souls Remastered as I was at Dark Souls 3, at least when I started my channel. So, in some ways, rather than being a series of recommendations of things that you should be doing, it's more of documenting the learning process that I'm going through as I'm trying to get better at this game. And the landscape against which I'm trying to improve is so different because you've got a number of players to the game who are completely new to Souls. You've got players like me that came from Dark Souls 3. And then you have players that have been playing Dark Souls 1 since release and who are tremendously skilled that you'll be pitted against. So it's a really sort of interesting environment. But I wanted to go into some of the invasions I had, some that were more interesting than others, and things that I learned as a result of some of the invasions that I had. So this guy right away, I can see that he seems enthusiastic about the invasion. So I'm surmising that he's probably got some skill. And I see he's got what I think is called the blood shield. And the blood shield reduces things like bleed and poison and whatnot. So it's a good choice for PvP. So things are going pretty well for me here in the beginning, but I end up making a pretty big mistake here in just a moment. So my old Dark Souls 3 training kicks in, and I roll into this guy, which is just a huge mistake. And then on top of that, I end up swinging at him, and he's easily able to pivot around me for a backstab. And unfortunately, that's a habit that I've tried to break, and I've mostly succeeded, but I still occasionally make mistakes like that. And obviously, I paid the price. So this invasion, I came here to Ulusil Township. Definitely recommend coming here if you're like me and you're trying to get good because you'll run into a number of players. You'll run into ganks, you'll run into duelists, and it'll definitely help your chops and you'll get a lot better at the game. As you can see, this guy had just finished off another invader when I arrived, so he's clearly got the fingers running, and he's just looking to duel. And it's actually pretty cool. You can see here another invader shows up. We just kind of take a brief time out, and he moves off to the side. And the vast majority of invaders will do the same thing here. It's not like Pontiff, where a lot of the invaders will come in and immediately want to jump after the host, which is fine, by the way, if that's your thing. For me, though, I'd rather like screw around and try to get better at actually dueling. And I think I did all right against that guy, but ultimately he was just a little bit more skilled than I was and was able to punish me. The Balder side sword, the pokes on that thing, I think are really effective as a spacing tool. So I see this guy come charging up with the tracer. And this is kind of interesting here. So I swing first. I try to break his poise, but I'm not successful. So I go ahead and roll out. Now, if he had stopped swinging, he could have easily won this fight. But as a result of him continuing to swing, I break his poise, and then I finish him off. And you can see there he was looking to swing out of the hit stun. But that gold tracer is no joke. That is an extremely powerful weapon. And when I see somebody with a lot of poise with that weapon, I am legitimately terrified because I still haven't figured out really how to deal with it quite properly. So if you invade a lot, you will get indicted a lot. And as a result, I got a lot of blue invasions. I can see now right away, one of the things you learn to focus on pretty quickly is whether somebody has poise. And I see him switch over to the shield, so I know for sure he's going to try to parry me. One of the nice things about this game is that parry spamming is not really a viable strat because you can't heal through your whiffs. In Dark Souls 3, you can whiff, heal, and then finally get the lucky parry and one-shot somebody with a Chaos Hornet riposte. And you really don't have to worry about that the same way here. You can see another example here. And this guy, I think, has the Silver Tracer, which has a crit modifier of 160. A backstab would probably kill me, or at least come very close, and a riposte certainly would kill me. And now I see he switched to the Gold Tracer. Now he's decided that after all of his parry whiffs, he actually didn't mean it and he's going to heal. But fortunately, I'm able to punish it. But look at the power of this weapon is such that he still almost killed me. And it was only because he kept swinging after I rolled out that I was able to finish him off. And he came very close to bleeding me as well, which would have killed me. So there I read the incoming running attack from the spear, and running attacks are fairly easy to kind of side strafe and backstab. You got to make sure you stay a fair distance away when you execute the running attack so you don't open up your back. Pyromancies, needless to say, pyros are so powerful in this game. They obviously require no meaningful stat investment. You just simply upgrade it. Now, depending on your decks, they'll be faster, slower, but they can almost act like a change-up, and you'll see an example of that here in a little bit, where I get roll caught just because it's so slow and I'm expecting it to be faster. But pyros are also a great option when you're using something ranged like a spear to keep people from rolling in up close to you. And you could see there he was trying to poise, backstab me, and circle around me, but I was already looking for that, and I was able to get out of the way. And that was either Firestorm or Fire Tempest. I momentarily thought about trying to backstab him out of that, but if I had whiffed it, that would have been the end of the fight. One other thing that I've learned is the importance of positioning. If your back ends up against a wall, it can be very, very difficult to escape. I have no idea how I avoided trading with him there. But I've lost a number of fights because I've ended up with my back up against the wall and unable to evade successfully, especially against some of these pyros. So this invasion here was actually a bit of a shock, because I thought I was playing offline. So I was very surprised actually to get invaded here. Dark Moon Blade is obviously no joke. I saw him do a running attack earlier, so I expected another one was coming, and I was able to strafe out of the way and stab him in the back. But Dark Moon Blade, this spell is extremely scary. I think at its higher levels it actually has like a 2.7 damage modifier. So this invasion here, I was actually in the midst of farming. You can see that I had the gold covetous ring on. I made a huge mistake here. I have no poise on this character, and I would normally play with the wolf ring. And playing with a slow weapon like a greatsword against a curved sword like the falchion without poise is almost unwinnable. I am in a truly awful position here. And normally even in an invasion I wouldn't heal, but I realized like I was in terrible trouble here, and I was hoping to get a chance to swap to the ring because I didn't even realize my mistake until I was at like half health, and there I kind of went for a Hail Parry, but there you can see I'm just totally screwed. If you're swinging slow weapons in this game, you absolutely have to have poise. There's no hyper armor. And without poise on a slow weapon, you can be interrupted at any point in the swing. And in fact, I've invaded a number of people that have like the base cannon with no poise, and I just absolutely ripped them to shreds for the same reason. And there I felt badly, actually. I didn't mean to do that gesture to that guy. I actually meant to bow to him. So there's definitely certain hot spots in this game. And one of the things I've learned is that it seems like the hot spots for invasions are actually tied to the areas in which invaders can invade directly from the bonfires. Because the challenge is obviously you drop your souls and your humanity. Actually, we'll talk about that in a minute. So this was a group of gankers that I had invaded a number of times, and in this first one, I actually caught this guy before he had managed to summon in his posse. And I see he's just casting this spell over and over to try to keep me at bay, and it's actually working pretty effectively. So I'm thinking about what I want to do, and I've decided I'm going to go in and try to stab him in the back unlocked, because I'm assuming he's going to go to cast it right away. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Now he's trying to get his buddy in. The curved swords in this game are really effective, and if you haven't PvP'd in this and you're looking to kind of get a start, I definitely recommend trying with a curved sword. The Fury sword in particular is really powerful. The one thing you have to look out for, though, if people are able to increase their resistance to fire damage, like I forget the sweat spell is, they can very easily totally neutralize your builds. You got to have some sort of backup weapon. But here they're able to get the better of me. I had tried retreating among the knights, but it wasn't enough to save me. At this point, I kind of got my shit together, and I think either in this invasion or the next one, I had switched over to the Crest Shield instead of the Grass Crest Shield just because it blocks so much more magic damage. And I had never encountered somebody using the Moonlight Greatsword one-handed, so I wasn't sure how to deal with this weapon art, and you can see me absolutely getting shreked by it. Facing off against multiple opponents in this game is so difficult, and facing off against two mages is a special kind of challenge to deal with. But I had switched to the Hornet Ring before this invasion so that I could one-shot these guys with backstabs. Mr. Knight came in and saved me. Magic, and I know Saint talked about this a little bit, in Dark Souls 3, I think magic was probably a little too impotent. And watch this. Behind this column, I think I'm perfectly safe. Nope. And I don't know if magic traditionally goes through walls like that, but that was definitely a learning experience. But Saint talked about this. I know in Dark Souls 3, magic is probably underpowered, but I think it's also probably overpowered in Dark Souls 1. I mean, it's just so powerful in this game. So this here is actually my last invasion against the Gankers, and you can see there he wisely turned to keep me off of his back. But I've got the Crest Shield now, which is helping my defenses. And there he gets the cancel, presumably because I took damage. And here I took another page out of the Saint playbook, where when you get a cancel and you're still able to move around, it lets you get Fire Tempest off before they can actually recover. And one of the most satisfying endings here possible, the disconnect. That felt awesome. So this is actually something else valuable that I learned about this game, and you'll see it here in a moment. I'm still not very good at sort of determining whether a player is skilled or not when I first invade them. In Dark Souls 3, I could tell right away based on how somebody moved whether they were good or not, and how careful I needed to be. But you can see this guy, he's going to run for the boss fog. But you can actually pull him out of that animation pretty late into the fog traversal, which is awesome. And it keeps players from just running straight there, and you can actually pull them out, which is very welcome. And I was sad that they removed that feature from Dark Souls 3. This last invasion, I'm leaving in the loading screen because I want you to see what happened here. I'm invading here in the kiln and somehow end up invading into Undeadburg, which I don't know if this is an intended mechanic. I've never seen this. I've never seen where I invade in one area and end up in another. So I can see this guy's kind of trying to get around on my back, so I'm trying to keep enough space between us so that he can't do that. I've learned one of the worst things that you can do is get right up on top of somebody, which unfortunately is a strategy I used to use with great effect in Dark Souls 3, because getting right in somebody's face was a great way to pressure people and get them to do something stupid. But in Dark Souls 1, it's an easy way to find yourself stabbed in the back. Well, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Take care now.